Welcome to iAMradio broadcast 7. I did broadcast yesterday, but I was sort of freestyling, so I didn't share that one. But I do appreciate the people that came out and participated, and I'm excited for today's topic. We're talking about why it's okay for you to say no and the role that your well-being plays in the well-being of all that is. What I'd like to do is give you perspectives and tools that make you feel okay to say no when you want to say no. And thanks for that comment. Hey guys, hey Randy. Yes, okay, so why you don't need to be a martyr, essentially, is what I'm presenting today, and how you actually hurt other people when you hurt yourself. I've prepared a drawing for this. So here we have a body, and within the body there is a zoom, and the zoom is on heart cells. Imagine that there are several there. And then if you zoom on one of the heart cells, this pink box here, you have a single cell. And within the single cell, there are all the things you remember from biology: mitochondria, nucleus, organelles, miscellaneous neon-colored squiggles. So we have a body, zoom, cells, zoom, a cell, and then within the cell pieces. Humanity, if you saw the God form, some of this will be repeated. Humanity is undergoing a process where it's coming to see that it's just one body. While this hand is separate from this hand, is separate from the foot, is separate from the smile, they all exist on one body. If this foot hurts this foot, it hurts the body. If the body's hurt, it hurts this foot. Humanity exists in a closed system similar to the body, and each of us are individual cells. And while we are separate from the body, we are also not separate from the body, and that we are a part of it. So the health of the body determines our individual health, and our individual health affects the body, which is why I'm here today, because it matters if you're happy, it matters if you're healthy, and it doesn't help the body if you hurt yourself to even help the body. If you hurt your cell in a way that you think like, oh man, I'm doing this for the body, you're just hurting the body, I'm sorry to say. This was a big one for me to digest, because martyr was a big part of my identity, and I thought if I was really suffering, I'd really be helping, and then I'd really be worthy of being here. And excuse me, that's not necessary. Okay, so I have 4 steps drafted out, and again, my objective for today is for you to leave and feel empowered to say no when you mean no, because you don't want to do it, or it doesn't feel good to you. So my first point 1, question 1, is the first step: asking yourself, why are you a part of something? If this is about you compromising what's comfortable for you to be in a relationship, either one that you feel like you can't leave, such as your family, think that you can't leave, such as your family, or one that you are participating in a way that seems more optional to you, like at a professional level or a friendship level, or even at a city level, wherever you live. Ask yourself, why are you a part of it? What are you there for? You may have noticed across my presentations, there is a theme in step 1s. And step 1 is like, hey, wait. Before we go any further, let's ask why we want to go further. It's so easy to start at the problem without asking, is this even a problem I want to solve? And if so, how does it fit? Because when you step back and you ask that question, you might see that it's downstream from something else, that you can get at it from another angle, that it's very helpful to ask a question about the question before you start solving. So in asking a question about the question, so if you're having resistance in relationships, you're having a hard time saying what's right for you, expressing what you need or what you want, or turning down what other people want or need, first ask, hey, why am I here? Why am I part of this relationship? Why am I part of this organization? Why am I living in this city? What's here for me? A few broadcasts ago, I talked about kind of the layered whys. You may find that you're a part of a relationship because you want to feel connected, or you want to have a place to play, or you're a part of an organization because you want to grow, and if you keep peeling off those layers, ultimately you get to the base layer, which is you want to feel good. You think that it'll make you feel good. Knowing that that is your number one and ultimate objective, even something, like I said, martyring, in some ways it's like it doesn't feel good, but it feels good that it doesn't feel good because you know or think that's helping. Those distortions that cause the means to differ from the end are where people get lost in all kinds of bullshit that doesn't make sense. When you ask the why am I doing this question, you have a chance to examine, are the means congruent with the end? And if not, why? For example, you might have somebody who wants to be healthier or have a different body composition. That's their end state. Their means is beating the shit out of themselves for not being that yet. So they create an internal environment that affects their physiology, which heightens the hormones or the stress response in their body, which actually detracts away from their main objective. See how crazy that is? So when you zoom out, you can see when you're doing something crazy, and the sane thing to do here then would be to see that by being nice to yourself, you're actually supportive of your end goal. And if you ever want to hear me talk about why being nice to you does way more or is more productive than beating the shit out of yourself, just ping me. That is my favorite topic. Okay, so step one. Why are you part of what we're talking about? Why are you part of the relationship, organization, etc.? And if you're just joining, what I'm talking about today is why your individual self, your happiness, your well-being matters in the overall play of things. And this is at a macro level, humanity, and at a micro level, individual relationships, so ones that are just one-on-one. And we'll get to this a little bit later. Step two is ask yourself why you think you can't be well, do well, say what you want, etc. in the container of the relationship. Why is it that you think you can't tell them how you feel? Why is it that you think you can't tell them, no, I don't want to go to the party? What is it? And that's another question where it's like, you might not have to go anywhere after step one or anywhere after step two. Those might be enough for you to be like, oh, JK, I can make a different choice. I am blessed to work with people as they reclaim their power from places they didn't know that it was. And that's a common experience in our culture, because you don't know what you're missing until you have it, or you don't know what you have until you're missing. And a lot of our power has been divested into ideas that are counterproductive. And one of the most counterproductive ideas that we've invested in as a culture is, don't be transparent. Don't tell people what you really think and feel. When you look at changing your behavior to accommodate what you think other people want or need, you'll find that most of the time, nobody told you to do that. Most of the time, you aren't acting in response to someone saying, I'm going to be really upset if you don't do this. You just think they will be. And so you respond to your idea of what you think is there, not even what's real. At step 2, you could make a call and say, hey, I'm feeling kind of out of it, not into it today. Do you mind if I don't come? The other party might be like, oh yeah, no problem. I get it. But if you don't allow yourself to consider why you think or why you don't think or why you think you can't do something, you might it's very convincing. Don't believe everything you think. Any questions, thoughts, feelings so far? Personal stories. So I'm talking about why your well-being and your happiness matters, and all of this is to create, I guess a tool for you on your belt. The sketches are a bit awkward. Thanks. It's to give you a tool on your belt where you can say no to other people and yes to yourself, and to see that when you say yes to yourself, you're actually saying yes to other people. So we have step 1, zoom out and see what you're looking at and why you're looking at it and what you're actually part of. Step 2 is ask why you think you can't allow for your well-being to be equal to that of others. And again, if you're done at step 1 or step 2, go be free. If you need more, step 3 is, I'm going to talk about what happens when you don't allow for your well-being. And we're going to talk about it at the micro level. So in my awkward sketch, I have a 2-person relationship. This could be father-daughter, this could be friend-friend, this could be husband-wife, husband-husband, this could be any 2 boss-employee, 2 people. They exist in a system, a closed system. If this person doesn't take care of themselves within the container of the system because they're a part of the system, they hurt the system, which ultimately hurts the other person. And so they may think, oh, I can't tell them that I don't have the bandwidth for that project because they'll be mad. And so they kind of I had a word but it fell out. They take the brunt, no, it's a phrase, I can't think of it, but they do something, they compromise themselves for the other person, not realizing that over time, that compromise creates strain on them, which creates strain on this. And so rather than there being, let's say, an uncomfortable conversation where this person practices saying, hey, in being real, I don't have the space for this. Instead of that, maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year later, there's a big blowout and this person runs away, and this person has no idea why this person would run away because they didn't know that this person was having a hard time. And this is the irony of non-transparency. You hurt the systems you're involved when you don't communicate where you are. And it's okay. I can only talk about this stuff because I've seen it in my life. So this is a no judgment. I'm just sort of pointing out, when you aren't prioritizing what's appropriate for you, are you really doing what you think you're doing, which is either maintaining the relationship or helping the organization? And it might be a short time, maybe in the short term, but if you blow that out over time, is that really going to build out or sustain what you think you're doing? I'm a firm believer in self-healing through positive thought. So it's interesting. You meaning the self-hurting does more damage than we think. So it's interesting. You meaning the self-hurting does more damage than we think. I'm sorry, David. Can you add, I think I'm reading it wrong. I want to make sure I'm responding to what you are saying. So I'll wait till you give me a few more words. Oh, mentioning. Okay, that makes sense. So it's interesting you mentioning the self-hurting does more damage than we think. Yeah. So when we're looking at this, it doesn't mean that you aren't kind or respectful of the other person. It only means that you allow yourselves to be equal. And I see this when I see inequality when one party perceives that they have more than the other. And yes, you can have more resources or time or money or strength, etc. But if that person takes on more than is comfortable for them, it creates an imbalance and the other party doesn't have an opportunity to develop. So I think of it like you do weightlifting. If you have somebody with a bench press and you're really strong, you're the trainer, and the person's new to the gym and they're laying on the bench and you're going to help them and you lift all the weight, are you helping them? Are they going to get any stronger? So when you start to say no, when you start to see how these pieces play together, it does take a little self-reflection, and you might have to ask, what am I getting by being imbalanced? What am I getting from my role as a martyr? You might be getting worth or validation. Like I said, I got worth from it, and I got to feel like I mattered because I was working so hard to save the universe, And we'll save that for another day, but the illusions of grandeur, that's an interesting truck to unpack. Okay, so we have step 1, reflecting on why you're a part of what you're a part of so you can connect with your main point. Step 2, asking why you think you can't be equal or well in the container, and seeing if there's anything obvious there for you to act on, such as ask or say something. See where you might be assuming something about someone else, what they might think or feel, what they might need. Maybe you have put yourself in a false dichotomy where you think it's like, either they get what I want, they get what they want, or I get what I want. When it's like, maybe there's an option 3 or C. And then step 3 is let yourself see that when you say no, or when you don't say no, when you compromise yourself for a relationship, for an organization, for the world, you're really compromising the system that you're a part of, which is ironically what you're trying to protect. It takes a little bit of work to see the possibility of like, oh, that actually can be true. I actually don't have to work 17 hours today. There's another way. The last step is giving the gift of no. So if that still hasn't made it possible for you to say no when you need to say no, and what you could be saying no to is taking on work or being a part of something or going somewhere, or you could be saying no to staying silent. You could be saying no to the continuation of a dynamic that isn't healthy or doesn't serve you. What you give is a gift. Not only are you taking care of the health of your individual cell, which is the only cell that you can be sure of, because you actually don't know what any other cell needs. You don't know any other cell's path. You don't know any other cell's journey or where they are at currently. You might think you do, and sometimes your guesses might seem like they're right, but the only cell's health that you can be wholly in charge of is your own. When you demonstrate caring for your cell, you give the gift to other people and you tell them it's okay if they care for their cell too. And you see how then that would flow out to a healthy body overall. So by you being joyful, you actually create world peace. That's my presentation for today. Do you have any questions, thoughts, feelings, anything you want clarified on, personal stories? I'm going to roll back through the recap, but if you have anything, I'd be interested. I appreciate y'all being here. So what I was talking about today is a pattern of conditioning that's pretty prominent in our culture, where people think that they need to suffer or be a martyr to help someone else. Thank you. And it's not necessarily help so much as like participate in a system. When help is a very interesting thing. And as you can see, I like to help. And I did that in a very imbalanced way. But because awareness is so tricky and the psyche is so good at hiding our own shit from ourselves, I couldn't see that me helping was hurting. So when you are helping, I think it's helpful to ask, are you helping somebody? It seems like, just check in. Is their arrow going up? Meaning, are they trying to help themselves? Do they seem like they want to go somewhere? Or is their arrow going down? If their arrow's going down, meaning they're telling a story that's like, listen to my drama, it can only be this way. Oh, no, I won't take that solution. Listen to my story. They'll take you down with you. This is kind of like, you can only really help someone stop drowning if they don't want to drown. So when we're looking at helping, I think this is something important to notice. I was talking more about your comfort in a relationship, your comfort at an organization, in a community, etc., and where you might compromise what's natural for you to accommodate what you perceive the group or the relationship, the other person in the relationship to require. It might seem like a good idea at first to not tell them how you really think and what you really feel, but as you saw in this very cool drawing, when you do that and you hurt yourself, these are gears. Like if this gear is compromised, it's going to compromise the system, which will ultimately compromise this gear. And that's why it's important to ask, why are you even there? If your point is to be close to someone, doesn't that require you to be there, which is what you really think and feel? I pointed out that it's really helpful to zone in on, like I just said, your main point, and that can clarify a lot of superficial problems. The solution to some of those problems, when you ask that question, might be to not let them be problems anymore. If your child or your spouse or your friend has an annoying thing, if you want to be annoyed about it, like, go for it. But if your point is to enjoy that person, maybe you let it go. Maybe you accept that's a part of who they are. Some dogs bark. If you want to get all tied up in knots about it, great. Is it going to stop the dog from barking? Probably not. If you really can't handle it, do you have to hang out with the dog? No. But if there are parts about the dog you really like, then you kind of have to accept it or just make yourself miserable. The second question you can ask in putting no on your tool belt or your own well-being on your tool belt is, what's going on that you think you can't say what you need? People get locked into patterns such as, I'll call you every night. What's really funny, and like, I'm blessed to be, like I said, in a part of a bunch of different heads and lives. So you have one person who's agreed to that. They're like, hey. And the other person, they're like, hey. Often, the person before they say, hey, is like, oh man, I have to call them. And the other person's like, oh man, they need me to call. And then they do this, and then till it's time for them to call and say like, hey. But if one of them had, say, a curiosity about if maybe there was another way to communicate or another time to communicate, and they presented it, they might save the other person from this part of it, you know? There are so many things we assume about what's happening that we have no idea about, and a simple clarifying question can save a lot of bullshit. Step 3 is being aware of what happens when you actually don't take care of yourself. You're the only person that knows what you need. If you're not giving it to you, you're not getting it, and eventually then your system's going to be compromised and it's going to be somebody else's problem. In humanity, we need each cell healthy. You're in charge of your cell. You're the only one that knows what your cell needs. You're empowered to use your voice. Sorry, I had a smoothie right before. It's a little thick. The last point here, when you advocate for the well-being of your cell, is you demonstrate that it's possible and you teach other people. Seeing someone say no because they want to say no is so freeing. You don't have to explain stuff. Somebody asked me out the other day. I said, no, thank you. I'm not interested. I don't need to give a big story. I don't need a big anything. I'm allowed to say no. You're allowed to say no. It's your time, your attention. And often when you get involved in something that you don't want to be involved with, you think thanks so much for coming, Randy. I hope everybody's good. When you take on things, when you compromise yourself for the system, you made a choice to be a part of it, but you're going to make it their problem. You're going to think it's what they're doing. Nah, it's that you're not comfortable because it's not right for you, but maybe you weren't able to see that at first, or maybe you weren't willing to own that at first, or There is a simplicity to this, but it takes a little bit of practice to see that it's safe. So in one of the other iAMradio broadcasts, I talk about how communication can be difficult because it's part of like when you learn language, you learn a lot of stuff. And some of the things you might learn are how to not upset other people because you're afraid if you upset them, they might not feed you. And then you'll be tossed out to the wolves and as a baby and you'll never make it to adulthood. Like there are a bunch of things that happen that make you think that it's not safe for you to advocate for your needs in a very straightforward manner. As an adult, you can keep doing those things, but it will likely take away from the quality of your relationships, the quality of your organizations, and ultimately the quality of humanity. No pressure. But really, it's not about them, it's about you. Why wouldn't you want to enjoy being a part of a relationship or part of an organization or part of it? Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to worry about who you were upsetting by just being and doing yourself? If you wanted to take a nap in the afternoon, does anybody else really care? Do they need to care? Is it any of their business? If that's what you need to function your best, it's your opportunity to say, like, this is what I need. I trust me to meet the other. Like, I agreed to be a part of the team. I recognize the responsibilities that I've taken ownership of. A nap at 3 p.m. helps me do it. Own it, do it. Again, step 4 is recognize that every time you advocate for your own needs, you give a gift. You let other people actually see you, and you show them that they can do it too. That concludes my presentation for today. I really appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you so much for your comments and your attention. If you're watching the playback and you have any questions, just put them in the comments. Enjoy your weekend.